Good afternoon, Sean here, Mountains Garage. Working on the 6-liter Turbo LS project. Today we're going to put on the rear cover, install the camshaft, timing chaining gears, oil pump, and front cover. Let's get at it. Over here in the land of tape measures, also known as the press, and my heavy-duty wire collection, this is my method for pushing in the rear seal. It's a piece of 4.5 inch, happens to be stainless exhaust pipe. I support it with a couple blocks of wood. It sits pretty good just like that. And then enough stuff to push on it. You can push it almost halfway in by hand. But this pushes on the outer edge and does a nice job going all the way in. Takes almost no effort. The inside of the seal is supposed to be dry when you put it on the crankshaft. You have to clean the crankshaft to make sure that's dry as well. But the outside of the seal, the OD, just a tiny bit of RTV, I use clear so you don't even see it when I wipe it off, makes it slide in a lot nicer. Otherwise this goes in pretty dry. I practiced with an old seal and I actually bent it a little bit, so I didn't want to waste another $25 seal. So this acts as a little bit of lube, and it certainly won't hurt when it hardens to help seal it. The original one looks like it had some black sealer on it. I had to clean out of the bore of the rear cover. I had to pull the engine off the engine stand and put it back up on the bench because there's no room to fit the barbell in around the engine stand. I was willing to try to put the rear cover on around the engine stand, but I couldn't get the barbell in. The barbell is a stupid little plastic thing. Aftermarket does have aluminum models available. I wish they put an O-ring on the front too. So I just rely on the factory one. They don't seem to ever bother. What it does is redirects the oil from the main line, from the oil pump in the front that runs all the way down the rail, and it redirects it to run through the oil filter and then, on to oil the engine. So its only job is to redirect the oil through the filter. But if you forget to stick it in the hole before you put on the rear cover, she's tight. There we go. You're going to be sad. You're going to have a massive oil pressure problem. Going over my torquing procedure from the last couple videos, I take the strain out of it with the ratchet out of the whole setup. So I'm ready to start torquing. I reset this to 0 and then carefully stroke it, in this case, to 75. I torqued everything to 15 foot-pounds first, and then zero it, go to 75 degrees. A trick I do afterwards is I reset my regular torque wrench to about 45, and I go ahead and click all the bolts, and if they click, I know I didn't miss them. If they moved easy, I'd know I forgot to do it. You should mark it as you go, but I just go over everything afterwards to make sure the torque wrench clicks on about 45, because the torque setting is actually higher than that, but that way I know I've done them all. I apologize for the background noise. That's the parts washer running. I'm cleaning up the heads today. Rear cover installation. It couldn't go any easier. That little nylon rig is really slick. You just line it up over the crank. You can push this ahead a little bit, start your bolts, and just push it on. Don't forget the gasket like I just did. So I carefully pulled it back onto the nylon, put the gasket in. You could probably do that all day long. It works that slick. I put 1 drop of Loctite in each bolt, torque them to 18 foot-pounds. The reason why I want to put the rear cover on first is without it, when I stab in the camshaft, it'll fall right out the back. Now it won't. Let's jab it in. The manual allows the cover to sit up to 20 thousandths below the oil pan rail, but in my case, they're both flush. I will trim off the gasket on both sides before I install the oil pan with a razor blade, so everything's perfectly flat. So I clean the cam with carb cleaner. It's hollow, so I do the inside too, make sure there's no machining material in there. Installed my custom cam handle I made last summer. 5/16 on one end, M8 on the other. I lube the first section with lube just to get it that far, then I'll go ahead and lube the rest and slide her on in there. Let's see how it goes. The camshaft slid into the new bearings. Nice. It spins freely. Digging through my stuff, I found a nice cam lock plate and bolts. I also found a nice timing chaining gear. I found two of them actually. This is the first one I tried on. It's nice and tight. We're good. They make a nylon wear plate you can bolt in there. You got to drill and tap the block. Totally unnecessary for this rig. And online, the Dorman crank bolt was about 15 bucks. I found it at my local auto supply place for $5.25. So I bought two. And somewhere in the future, I'll be shooting a video telling you that I know I have a bolt here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. The oil pump. I've stripped two over the last couple days. I washed them whole. I actually soaked them in my carb cleaner and then ran them in the ultrasonic cleaner and then took them apart and put the housing back in to make sure there wasn't any fluid left in it to dry and make sure it was super clean. And they clean up like they're brand new. For modifications, on the suction side, you can see that inner step, not where the O-ring and the suction tube would stop, but way inside. It's kind of 45 degree. Well, that's a small restriction on the suction, so we can improve that with a little bit of grinding. On the outlet side, there's a lot of room for improvement because the oil has to go in and make a right-hand corner. And you can see how restrictive it is, so I'm going to do a little bit of grinding in there just to improve that. The pressure relief, which screws in here, you have the valve, the spring, and the Allen-headed cap. You want to make a shim that's going to fit in there. People do it anywhere from 70 to 125 thousandths. I'm going to make a 100,000 shim to go right in there. So it'll go against the spring. It'll install just like that. And that should give me an extra 15 psi. So fully hot, it should have about 50 pounds idling, 70 pounds going down the road. Normally I wouldn't want that much, but I have extra oil to send out to the turbos and stuff, and it won't be a problem to run that much pressure. Now the experts will tell you anything over 15 pounds is a waste, but in this case, trying to keep things alive under undue stress, a little extra oil pressure isn't going to hurt. I stepped outside because that parts washer is so loud. You can see I just tapered the inside a little bit. It cuts really fast with an aluminum burr. Same on the outlet, just gave it a little bit of a radius. You don't have to go crazy. If you did nothing, it would probably work just fine as well. And for the shim, I found a small nut that was 102 thousandths thick. Fits in there perfect. That's my high-tech full race shim. Be sure to keep the gears in the correct orientation where they came out, so don't flip them over. I'm not sure they'd work the other way. I don't know, but it's always a good practice to put them in the way they work. And the Allen cap for the pressure spring had Loctite on it originally, and I'm going to Loctite it again. Oil pump installation on the engine. You'll probably see videos with people with 400 feeler gauges stuck in there looking like a porcupine, centering the gears. If you buy a new Melling oil pump, Melling, a huge manufacturer of oil pumps, if you buy a new LS Melling oil pump, they'll tell you two things. One, you take the cover off, there's no warranty. And two, install it on the engine with the bolts finger tight, rotate the engine one turn and tighten the bolts. Just for kicks, with the other pump, I believe, I had it stuck on here with no front cover on it, and there was no way I could move what little bit of movement you have, move the pump and have the gears bind up. They were happy in every position. If you look at them, they got nice spacing all the way around. I did exactly what they said. In fact, I did them one better. While I was rotating it, I had a ratchet in my other hand and I tightened the bolts while I was turning it. Should be all right. When it comes time to prime the oil system, if you choose to, you can build a pressure rig and prime it in that hole right there. Also, if it's already installed in the car, a 3/8 rubber fuel line fits in there pretty tight, and you can put a funnel above and fill up the pump. And as soon as you crank it, it's going to start sucking oil. You just don't want the pump itself dry, because it does have a long pickup tube to suck in, but it drains back in the car. The tube does, but this typically, the cavities are full of oil. So while it's on the engine stand, before I put this plug in, I'm going to turn them so this is horizontal facing up. I'm just going to take a little funnel and I'm going to put about a pint of oil in the pump. Shove the plug in, and my pump has fluid in the cavities. So, just something I do. It doesn't look like my paint is going to be dry in time to install the front cover. I ended up painting it because my blast cabinet is not functioning that well, and it's been outside for 4 or 5 years. It wasn't the prettiest, but this is cast aluminum engine paint. It looks okay. Given a choice, I like raw, dull aluminum for my engine covers and valve covers. I'm not really into the shiny stuff. Never have been. But let's talk about the timing cover installation. You can buy a tool. You can buy the front and rear seal tools, which also come with a piece that bolts on. It simulates an oil pan, so you can actually bolt the covers to it. And they give you a centering piece, both front and rear. As I've shown you, the rear nylon piece that comes with the seal works slick. So I really don't see the need to improve that. The front seal tool that you buy, you actually install the cover without the new seal. And it registers in the cover, and it fits perfectly over the snout. So it centers your cover. It comes with the piece that bolts on here. So you bolt the whole cover on. And I say the bore of the tool they give you is perfect to fit over the hub. And then you flip it around and still registering on this, it's big enough that you can tap the seal in. It's a pretty slick rig. So slick as I was hunting for aluminum. I was going to make my own. This is a random piece that I have. Haven't started working on it yet. But for this engine, before I get the tool made, I'm probably going to do what I normally do is I'll install the timing cover with the new seal already installed. I'll put it in with the bolts loosely. And I'll go ahead and install the harmonic balancer. That'll be my tool. That works also. Then there's plenty of room to go around and tighten the bolts up afterwards. It'll be the same deal. You want it perfectly flat or no more than 20 thousandths below the pan rail. Not much to really talk about that I haven't already said. I want to get the harmonic balancer installed before I put the cylinder heads on because I actually want to mark true top dead center. If I was that concerned about having true top dead center, I would also drill and pin this because there's no keyway on the hub on the end of the crank. I'm just not that concerned, but it would be nice to know and check one time when I get it running, actual timing with a timing light. And I typically will put, with the engine at top dead center, I'll mark like the flex plate against the block as well, so if I don't believe one, I can actually slide under and look at the other mark. And if I believe it's moved, and then you can plan accordingly. That's the end of this video. You may notice in a lot of my other videos, it looked like I was looking off to the side. Well, I found with my iPhone, if I flip it so I'm looking at, right now I'm looking at myself, it's hard to tell where to look because I'm looking at the screen. If I set up the tripod pointing at where I'm going to be and I go around and get in the picture, then it looks normal. So if I look kind of, strange, that was why. I got another helpful suggestion from a viewer. He says, hey, you're looking the wrong way. All right, like and subscribe, all that jazz, ring the bell. And next we'll put the pan on, or the balance, or the front cover, the pan, the balancer. And I've cleaned the heads up today so I can start working on those. I think I got all my gaskets and my head studs showed up today. My crazy mail lady got it slowed down enough to chuck them in the woods on the side of the road. And I went and dug them out. You ever watch the movie Funny Farm? It's a lot like that. Talk to you later. Bye.